Okay, so I'm going to take a look at your structures here. So I'm going to go ahead and come over to your tool space, and I'm going to right click and edit the network. Now when I edit the network, like I said, this is the little icon, Pipework Vista. So the first thing that I want to look at is, just to make my life a little bit easier, right now we've got structures listed. So I'm going to move this out of the way for right now, and I'm going to move that out of the way. I want to go ahead and annotate, because it's easier for me to sometimes see the pipe network. Now I'm going to look in the entire, I'm going to do in the entire pipe network in the plan view. If I click on this, I can come over here and click on that pipe, and it labels everything. This allows me to see the information really quickly. I'm just going to pull this out of the way. And pull this out of the way. Okay, so I can see the inverts of everything. My pipes are labeled. You can label the pipes or the parts individually. I do this two ways. I've got my properties palette up. When I click on the object here, notice I can see that it says S1, the type of structure I have, that's all good. The other thing that it has is the sump elevation. Right now my sump elevation, which should be about the same as my invert, is 74. So I'm going to just write down these numbers as I go along. S1 is 74. That's the sump elevation. So that's about 5 feet. That's typically what I use, is 5 feet. And it says the invert out is 76. So there's only 3 feet here. And it's a 2-foot pipe, so technically you don't have clearance. So I'm actually going to use the sump invert as my inverts of my pipes. So what technically you're drawing is the sump is 2 feet below the invert of the pipe. Some people do that to collect trash. I don't typically do that because it's harder to clean out. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the sump invert as 74, and now I'm going to look at the sump invert here, 7394. So I'm going to change, when I go to the structures, I can modify this. I can't modify it here right now. The reason you also have a depth is it says control sump by depth, and you can do it by elevation. So I'm going to go ahead and look at your pipes. So I just moved this over to the side. Now this structure here is listed as structure 18. So I'm going to call this, instead of structure 18, I'm going to label it here S-3. I'm going to capitalize that, S-3, and I'm going to call this one MES-1, mitered in section 1. I picked the wrong pipe size because I wasn't sure what you had used first. Now, here's my structures, okay? I have my rims, and then it doesn't show me the sump here, so I have to find that in a different location, but it does have the pipes. Now, the pipes I'm going to be using is, I need to scroll this on back. I don't change pipe names because typically I don't use the names, but what I'm actually looking at is the slope, and I'm looking at the invert elevation. I'm not worried about the center line elevation of the structure or the center line of the elevation of the crown, or the crown elevation, I'm sorry, the top of the pipe. Now, I'm going to come over here and, okay, sorry. I just need to see what order the pipes are in and what structures I'm drawing to. So right now, let me pull this over a little bit more. Where is it at? Where is it at? Start to end. I'm sorry, here it is. This is what I'm looking for, the MES structure. So basically it's telling me where I'm starting and where I'm going to. So the start structure, I'm just going to drag, typically I can drag this over so I can see it. So start to end. These are a little bit out of order. Typically I like to see them in order, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So my start structure is S1. So here's S1. And I said I wanted that invert to be 74. Okay? As soon as I said 74, it drops the end invert here. And I'm going to move this over also. And I'm just dragging these like an Excel file. The end invert is 75. 74, and then the end invert is 75.4. So it's actually going the wrong direction. And you can see that by this slope right here. Hold slope end or hold slope start. So I'm going to hold slope start, and I'm going to go negative 0.35%. Now see what it does? Since I'm holding the start elevation, it allows me goes downhill. So I go negative because I want it to go downhill. Now, the next pipe, S2 to S3, this row, this elevation here, the start elevation, needs to be the same as this one. So that's going to be 73.89. Hit enter. Now notice the end invert where the pipe structure 3, that drainage structure, again, wrong direction. And I'm using the slopes to do this instead of calculating it by hand. And I'm going to use 0.35. The lowest we normally go is 0.25. We don't use a lot of slope here in Florida. So now I've got 1 to 2, 74 to 73.89, 2 to 3, 73.89 to 73.59. So that slope, that pipe, or that structure 3, this one here, this value needs to be 73.59. And I'm going to again hold it, and I'm going to go negative 0.35. I'm always holding the upstream invert. You don't have to. If you know you're starting at an end point and going one direction, you can do it the opposite direction. But I typically go from upstream to downstream. It's just, for me, it's easier. Now, since I've done that, notice, I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm just shifting it to the other screen. Notice that my inverts have changed here, okay? My sumps, if I click on it, my sumps have also changed. To fix that, so the sump is the same as the invert, I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit, I'm going to do structure properties. It pops up and has the parts properties. What I'm going to change here is I'm going to change it based on elevation. And when I do that, the elevation I want to use is 74. Okay? So now the sump is the same. So I'm going to go OK. So now when I click on this, it should say 74. So the sump here, I want to be 73.89. So I'm going to click on the structure. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go structure properties. Parts properties is what I'm looking at. Where it says, I'm going to pull this down, where it says sump behavior, I'm going to say controlled by elevation. And I'm going to say that elevation is 73.89. This is usually the most frustrating part when we're actually doing this for engineers, but it's just something that you kind of learn as you go along. So now when I click on this, it should say sump elevation 83 or 73.89. Same with this one. I wanted the sump to be 73.59, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go structure properties. I'm going to pull this down. Too far, too far. I'm going to change the sump behavior to elevation. And I'm going to say 73.59 and apply and OK. Now, this one doesn't actually have a sump behavior. If I right click and go structure properties, or it shouldn't since it's a mitered end section, and it does. So, whoops, my bad. So I'm going to change that to elevation, and I'm going to change that to 73.31. Apply and OK. All right. The bottom of the pond right now is 74. So you'd actually need one more contour down. So if I offset this 4 feet down, and I'll change that to 73. Okay, that's as really much as you need. Here's the other thing, is that where this mitered end, typically 73 is the end point here, so we pull it back to, and I still don't know why my O snaps are clicking on that. So we pull it back so the front of the mitered end section would actually, you know, end at the 73 elevation or thereabout, about there. Okay, now this line here that you used as your 3D polyline, you don't need it anymore, so you can actually just delete it. And now you have your structures all set, and you can pull these leader lines out so make it nice and neat. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so now you know that you're going to start here at 7359. We'll take a look at creating a storm going this direction. So I'm going to stop right here and we'll continue on in a minute.